and welcome to Opinion Nation, where I give you my opinion and you share yours. Well, today I am actually joined by my dogs, which you can probably see, who are incredibly lazy. And as you may notice when you look at the previous videos, I've actually finally got a haircut and no longer look like the wild man of Borneo. So today we're going to talk about North Korea and some of the stuff that's happening around there, and I'm going to be giving you my opinion on what I think is happening, will happen, or should happen. Well, I know I said that we'll get into my opinion, but I lied. We will indeed get into my opinion, but first I just want to briefly explain the new setup that I'm trying. As you will notice, the introduction, you saw my ugly mug, but I'm now just going to be giving you my voice with perhaps some sort of pictures that have something to do with the topic I'm actually talking about. I would be interested if anyone who is watching this, if they prefer this format or would prefer the old format and stare at my face all the time. Now, I don't want to make this video quite as long as the last one, and we will try our best, but I do sometimes have a bit of verbal diarrhea, so if it does go on too long, we'll split it into two. Anyway, so for my opinion, North Korea. Now, without going into a history lesson, I think everyone understands, or most people probably have heard of the Korean War, that theoretically ended in 1953, but it was only an armistice. It was not actually a peace treaty or anything like that was signed. So technically speaking, there is still war there, although obviously it's been quiet for a long time. The Kim family, I think it is, yes, have ruled, as it were, North Korea through now 3 generations. The current Kim is the third one. He's also very, very young, which in my opinion makes him a little less stable, if you like, because he's got something to prove. Now, it was actually yesterday, according to some newspapers, American intelligence believes that North Korea now has the capability of miniaturizing a nuclear device and placing it on their missiles. Now, prior to that, of course, there is concerns that their missiles can definitely reach certain parts of the United States and possibly even New York. Now, if missiles such as that have that sort of range, then obviously it is also potentially possible that they could reach Europe. So it is potentially quite a dangerous situation. But America has essentially been playing this game since 1953 with Korea, where it's the same old story. North Korea, should I say. You mustn't include both of them in that. It's always been backwards and forwards, and most of the time, nothing really happens. They put some sanctions on. And this latest increase in rhetoric is because of the latest set of sanctions. The problem with sanctions is that, they're not that effective because you can always sanction bust. It's been done ever since the start of the UN, so I don't think there's going to have much effect, except perhaps on initially. But also that angers North Korea because, in Asia they value, their integrity a lot. They don't want to lose face. So he has to respond with something. Now, one of the latest things he's responded with now is that they're considering a plan to launch missiles against Guam, which is an island probably 1,500 miles away from North Korea, and it's an island that is governed, well, not governed, but it's considered US territory and has massive US bases on. I think personally that the missiles probably don't have the range that people are thinking, though they have the potential for the range, but I don't think that they've actually tested it enough to say, yes, we can hit a target in the US. But I do believe that hitting a target in Guam is perfectly possible. The other thing I don't believe is that they actually have the capability of putting a nuclear warhead on these rockets as yet. I think that they probably have the theory on how to do it, but manufacturing something like that takes time. So I don't believe that they are nuclear armed per se as it is. Perhaps with small or smaller bombs on aircraft, they possibly could drop nuclear bombs, but that means they're limited to the range, essentially South Korea. I do not believe that they would nuke South Korea, because the aim of North Korea is to unite the two Koreas. So obliterating it is a sort of contrary to what they want to do. And also, because they're so close, any nuclear fallout would obviously go into North Korea. So I don't think that at the moment they have full nuclear capability. But they are going to, and it's going to happen relatively quickly. So the US and the rest of the world, though people follow the US lead, has to decide what it's going to do. Now, essentially, if they're going to remove this nuclear threat before it becomes real, they have to do something about it now, which will mean airstrikes and obviously an invasion, because if you strike their nuclear capability, there's still the conventional capability there, and they will attack South Korea. But I think the amount of lives that potentially could be lost if the war goes nuclear, as to the amount of lives that could be lost if we act, or should I say if America acts now, is better to act now. Now, if America is not going to react properly, or as I say, if they're going to continue playing this game by saying, oh, we're going to, they're going to have to then decide to give up the Korean peninsula, because they then have to make friends with North Korea and say, okay, fine, you do what you want to do, but please don't invade South Korea. But that's not going to help, because if America doesn't do something now, then when they are nuclear armed, they will invade South Korea, and America will not attack, because then it risks its own military with nuclear weapons. I mean, the point being is that if the Americans don't do something now, and they decide that they think they should do something later after a proper invasion from North Korea has happened and they are nuclear armed, they would then be able to drop a nuclear missile into the American task force or navy before they even reach Korea, potentially. So, that would really make it very difficult for America to win, without essentially using nuclear weapons themselves. But they can't, because if they use the nukes against North Korea, they're going to affect South Korea, who is the people they're supposedly going to protect, and they're going to affect China, who will probably come down on the side of North Korea. So it is a very difficult position. I believe now, if they need to decide if they're going to act militarily, or if they're going to say, put their hands up and say, okay, fine, Korea, that we're not responsible for that, we're coming out of it, and let China and North Korea run the Korean peninsula. The problem with that is that then where does it stop? Because he's still going to become a nuclear power, and who's next? Could it be Japan? Because the Koreans don't really get on with the Japanese very well. So, I think this appeasement that they've been doing all this time and are currently doing sounds very similar to the appeasement that the British and French did with the Germans in the 30s. And they said, okay, we'll protect Poland. But when it actually came to the time when Poland was eventually invaded, though the Germans did not expect Britain and France to declare war on them, they did, but it was too late to do anything about Poland. They couldn't help Poland. So we have to, and when I say we, I'm talking about the West, actually. Because obviously America is a NATO country, and therefore we are obliged to help them. So if there is war, we're going to be involved. Now, if we're involved, I would rather be involved before North Korea has the capability of sending missiles to London. Even if they were able to send conventional missiles, just with an explosive warhead, thousands of people will die just from that. So, something's got to be done. War is terrible, and yes, if there is war there now, I would say that, hundreds of thousands of people will probably die. But a lot more are going to die if we leave it and there's a nuclear war. Now, a lot of people will say, but you see, America won't go in because of China. Yeah, that is one of the reasons that America won't go in. Because China says don't. But the way China's manoeuvring now, I suspect that if the Americans did something now, China might just sit back. But if you wait and turn it into a nuclear conflict, then China will probably get involved and on the other side. Now, morally, there is a reason for invading North Korea. I mean, we all had the moral reasons for invading Iraq and Afghanistan. And Iraq particularly, they had weapons of mass destruction. Well, they didn't, and we invaded. Now we have a country that has weapons of mass destruction and is treating their own people like crap. Where far, far worse than Saddam Hussein ever did. I mean, there are concentration camps there. So morally, there's a stronger argument for invading North Korea than there ever was for any of this Middle East crap. But one thing I've noticed, at least since Vietnam in any case, or even before, America does not like going to war with people who can fight back. I don't know, maybe they just don't have the stomach for it, but Donald Trump, maybe, I don't know. This will actually show whether Donald Trump is different or not, because if he follows the normal line and just appeases them, then you can see, well, he's just like any other politician. Though he might think, well, the economic repercussions of a war there is pretty dire. But the economic repercussions of them becoming nuclear and actually taking over South Korea are even more. Because then you can probably say goodbye to Samsung and various other things that we see. The thing is that I would rather the deaths happen over there than deaths happen in here, with nuclear or conventional missiles. I think in the next couple of months, before the end of the year, there will either be war in North Korea, or at least in the Korean Peninsula, or we will see America totally back down, or at least start to back down, and we'll be able to say, yeah, okay, the future of Korea is in the hands of North Korea. So, I don't want to see a war. I don't, war is not nice, but if you are going to stop future devastating conflicts, sometimes preemptive strikes are better. So that, however, is my opinion. I'd like to hear yours. I mean, is America a cowardly nation that will not stand up to its responsibilities when it's actually put on it? Is America only able to attack countries that can't fight back where there's oil or something that they want? Or are they actually morally inclined and will actually do something about this situation, which they have actually created by not doing something sooner? And we're running out of time, and it'd be nice to see something positive happen, but, you know, I don't think diplomacy is going to work. It hasn't worked since 1953. What makes them think it's going to work now? It's not going to work. So you have to make a decision. And the West and America has to make a decision. Do we allow North Korea to take the peninsula and treat the South Koreans with such barbaric treatment that they do with their own citizens? So are we a moral people and will do something to protect humanity, or are we just out to see what's good for us and let's leave it and hopefully nothing bad will happen? Well, my opinion is, if we don't do something now, something bad will happen, and it will happen within the next 5 years. But the next 5 months will tell us how this will plan out. Well, that's goodbye from me now. I do hope that you like this video. That's it for my opinion, and I'd like to hear what your opinion is in the comments. And if you like these videos or want to see some more, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.